What's up everybody, blessed be. My name is Manon and you are watching Witch in the Working, where we will be discussing all things witchy in and around, throughout and about, above, below, and beyond. This video offers my personal views on the topic at hand. Please visit me on my other platforms as well, including Facebook, Instagram, and Patreon, all linked down in the description below. The full script of this video and most of the others is available on my Patreon account for download if desired to build your very own Witch in the Working Book of Shadows. Do you need help with a spell or fancy a tarot reading? Shoot on over to my store, Bewitching and Bizarre, with choices listed down in the description below for your personalized working and or reading. Did you ever notice how every once in a while someone pops up saying, Wicca's fading away, or people just aren't into witchcraft like they used to be? It's funny because from where I'm standing, the magic never really left, it's just changed shape. Wicca isn't something that stays frozen in time. It's alive, breathing, and constantly evolving, right along with the world around it. But it is fair to say things definitely feel different these days. Fewer people call themselves Wiccan. Covens aren't as common as they once were, and social media has reshaped how people learn about the craft. So is Wicca really dying out, or are we just witnessing its next transformation? In this video, we're going to dig into that question, where Wicca came from, how it grew, and what's really happening to it today. We'll explore the rise of the TikTok witch generation, the blending of traditions, and why so many people are stepping away from labels while still walking a spiritual path inspired by Wiccan values. Whether you've been practicing for decades or you're just curious about the craft, we'll take this journey together and see if Wicca is truly fading or simply being reborn for a new era. So grab your tea, light a candle, and let's dive into the story of a faith that refuses to stay quiet. Roll intro. Welcome back everybody. So, it's wild to think about how something as ancient feeling as Wicca is actually pretty modern. A lot of people picture it as this ancient, unbroken religion that's been practiced secretly for thousands of years, but the truth is, it's a bit more layered than that. Modern Wicca, as we know it today, really began in the mid-1900s thanks to a man named Joe Gardner. Now, Gardner wasn't some mysterious wizard in a tower. He was actually a retired British civil servant with a deep fascination for old folklore, secret societies, and magic. When he came out publicly as a witch in the 1950s, it was revolutionary. Back then, the Witchcraft Act in England had only just been repealed. Imagine that, a law against even claiming to be a witch. So when Gardner stepped forward, he wasn't just starting a new religious movement, he was challenging society's fear and superstition head on. Gardner was initiated into a surviving coven of ancient witches, but what he actually did was blend what he learned about ceremonial magic, folklore, and old pagan traditions into something new, a practice that celebrated nature, honored a god and goddess, and followed what we now call the Wiccan Rede, which is, and it harm none, do what ye will. That simple phrase became a moral compass for a new generation of spiritual seekers. His first books, Witchcraft Today and The Meaning of Witchcraft, spread like wildfire, sparking curiosity all over England and eventually across the ocean to America. In the decades that followed, people like Doreen Valiente, Gardner's high priestess and poetic powerhouse, helped refine and expand his teachings. She's the one who shaped much of the language found in traditional rituals today. Then came Raymond Buckland, who brought Gardnerian Wicca to the United States in the 1960s. Buckland's work, along with his wife Rosemary, planted the seeds of Wicca on American soil. They helped create a lineage of covens that would grow and branch out into different traditions: Alexandrian, Seax Wicca, Dianic, and so many more. By the 1970s and 1980s, Wicca started stepping into the public eye. Books like Scott Cunningham's Wicca, A Guide for the Solitary Practitioner, opened the doors for people who didn't have a coven nearby or didn't feel comfortable joining one. His message was empowering. You don't need initiation from someone else to walk the Wiccan path. You can build your own connection to the divine. That really resonated with people, especially during a time when individuality and self-discovery were booming. Suddenly, Wicca wasn't just a mystery religion practiced in small secret circles. It was a movement. As the craft spread, it began to evolve in fascinating ways. Some people stayed true to the structured coven-based systems that Gardner and his followers developed. Others created more eclectic approaches, blending in elements from Celtic mythology, Native American spirituality, Eastern philosophies, and beyond. The beauty of Wicca is that it's always been about personal experience with the sacred. It's not about blind faith, but direct connection. By the time the 1990s rolled around, Wicca had firmly rooted itself in pop culture. Movies and shows like The Craft, Charmed, and Practical Magic sparked a wave of interest among young people, especially women who found empowerment in witchcraft's message of balance, independence, and harmony with nature. Sure, Hollywood did glamorize it a bit. Well, okay, a lot. But even so, those portrayals opened countless doors for people who might never have thought twice about spirituality outside the mainstream. But here's where things get interesting. Wicca never really stopped evolving. As society shifted, so did the craft. The internet changed everything. Forums, early chat rooms, and later YouTube and social media gave Wiccans around the world a chance to connect, share rituals, and build communities without borders. Gardner could have never imagined a digital coven meeting under the light of a computer screen instead of the moon. But hey, that's progress. Today, Wicca stands as both an old and new religion. It honors ancient cycles of nature, yet it's constantly reshaping itself for the modern world. From secret gatherings in English forests to podcasts and online rituals streamed globally, Wicca continues to grow in ways that reflect the times. What started as one man's daring act of rebellion against superstition has become a worldwide spiritual family, diverse in belief but united in reverence for the earth, the seasons, and the balance of all things. So when people ask where Wicca began, the answer isn't just about dates and names. It's about spirit. It's about a movement that rose from curiosity, courage, and a longing to reconnect with something real, something magical. And that spark, lit by Gardner and kept alive through every generation since, still burns bright today, whether in covens beneath the moon or in the quiet heart of a solitary witch lighting a single candle in her room. Let's be real. Witchcraft has always found a way to adapt with the times. Back in the day, if you wanted to learn about Wicca or the craft, you'd probably have to stumble across a rare book in a metaphysical shop or be lucky enough to, meet someone who practiced it. But fast forward to the digital age and suddenly the entire world of magic is at our fingertips. You don't have to find a coven in your neighborhood anymore. All you need is Wi-Fi and curiosity. When the internet first took off in the 90s and early 2000s, it quietly became a spiritual playground. Message boards, online covens, and early websites like Witchvox gave seekers a way to connect with others who shared their beliefs. It was a game changer for solitary witches who might have felt like they were the only magical soul in their small town. For many, those online connections were the first time they felt seen, understood, and part of something bigger. Then came YouTube, and things really started to evolve. Suddenly, witches weren't just typing out their thoughts, they were sharing their altars, spell work, and experiences on camera. The early witchy YouTubers created a sort of digital coven where you could watch, learn, and grow alongside real people. You didn't have to wonder what a ritual looked like anymore. You could literally see it. It made Wicca more accessible than even before. But like everything on the internet, it didn't stop there. When TikTok blew up, it opened the floodgates for a whole new generation of witches. Enter what many now call, and I've made a video about before, witch talk. This corner of social media is filled with 60-second spells, crystal halls, moon updates, and aesthetic videos of candles flickering in slow motion. For some, it's an aspiring and empowering space, a gateway into discovering spirituality for the first time ever. For others, it's, a bit of a mixed bag. For instance, I don't like witch talk. I have a whole video about that you can look up, and I'll try to put it right here. It hasn't been working lately, but anyway. But as far as the beauty of witch talk is, it made the craft visible and approachable. Young people who may have never heard of Wicca are suddenly learning about sabbats, deities, and the power of intention. It's exciting to see witchcraft normalized in such a massive way. It's no longer a taboo or a dark thing. It's trending, creative, and filled with self-expression. For many, that's where their magical journey begins, and that's honestly something to celebrate. But here's the tricky part. Not everything online labeled witchcraft or Wicca is accurate. With so much information flying around, the line between genuine practice and clickbait can get pretty blurry. Some creators chase views instead of knowledge, turning spells into quick aesthetic moments that look cool on camera but lack the spiritual depth behind them. You'll see trends like hexing the moon or love spells gone wrong that make seasoned practitioners literally cringe. It's not that these creators have bad intentions, they're just reflecting what happens when spirituality meets the internet's attention economy. Still, the digital age isn't all chaos and glitter. It's also allowed serious practitioners to share real teachings, history, and philosophy in ways our elders could have only dreamed of. For instance, my channel, I like to think I'm spreading positive, good information, and a lot of people are learning from it. Podcasts, online workshops, and live rituals have connected thousands of people across the globe. The internet in many ways has become the new sacred circle, a place where we gather, share energy, and pass on wisdom even through screens. For beginners, this era offers incredible opportunities. You can study Wiccan theology, learn about the Sabbats, or watch a high priestess walk through a full ritual, all without leaving your home. But it's important to take everything online with a pinch of salt. Not every video or post will lead you closer to the truth of the craft. Wicca is about connection to nature, to spirit, and to your inner self, and those things can't always be captured in a 15-second clip. For the more experienced witches out there, this digital boom poses a different challenge: how to keep tradition alive while embracing change. Some elders worry that social media waters things down, but others see it as evolution. Wicca has always been fluid, adapting to the needs of each generation. Maybe this new wave of online spirituality isn't the end of true Wicca at all. Maybe it's just another phase of growth. At the end of the day, whether someone finds Wicca through a dusty old book or a TikTok scroll session at 2 a.m., the heart of it remains the same: seeking balance, honoring nature, and walking a path of self-discovery. The digital age has simply given the craft new colors to paint with. It's messy at times, sure, but it's also magical in its own way. So while some might roll their eyes at witch talk, like myself, or online spell trends, the truth is this: every spark of curiosity, no matter where it comes from, can lead to real transformation. The internet didn't kill Wicca, it just gave it a bigger voice. So here's a question that's been floating around the witchcraft community for a while now, and the reason for this video: is Wicca dying out? Depending on who you ask, you'll hear everything from yes, it's fading fast, to no, it's just changing shape. The truth, like most things in life, isn't black and white. It's somewhere in that gray, mysterious middle ground where Wicca has always loved to dance. Let's start with the numbers. Over the past few decades, different surveys have tried to track how many people actually identify as Wiccan. Back in the early 2000s, it was estimated there were maybe 150,000 to 200,000 practitioners in the United States. By 2014, that number reportedly jumped to over 1 million. Then a few years later, it seemed to dip again. But here's the catch: those numbers only reflect people who label themselves as Wiccan. What they don't account for are all the spiritual folks who practice witchcraft, celebrate the Sabbats, and cast spells, but don't use the Wicca title. And that's where things get interesting. You see, Wicca used to be the main umbrella term for modern witchcraft. If you said you were a witch in the 90s or early 2000s, most people assumed you meant Wicca. But these days, witchcraft has branched out like the roots of an old oak tree. There's green witchcraft, chaos magic, Norse paganism, traditional witchcraft, and countless other paths that people are walking independently. Some still use the Wiccan framework, while others built their own belief systems. So when people say Wicca is dying, it's not necessarily true. It's just not the only label anymore. Think of it this way: it's kind of like how music changes over time. Rock didn't die when new genres like punk or metal showed up. It evolved. The sound splintered into new directions, but the roots remained. That's what's happening with Wicca. Its core ideas, reverence for nature, balance between masculine and feminine energies, the wheel of the year, and the celebration of personal empowerment, have all spread into countless other practices. The name might not be on everyone's lips, but the heartbeat is still there. Now there's another factor at play too: identity. Back when Wicca first took off, calling yourself a witch or Wiccan was a bold statement. It meant you were part of something secretive and sacred, a rebellion against mainstream religion and the limitations it imposed. But now, spirituality has gone mainstream. People don't feel the same need to wear labels the way they once did. You might find someone who lights candles to the moon, celebrates Samhain, and works with the elements, but if you ask them if they're Wiccan, they'll shrug and say, "I'm just spiritual." That shift isn't a loss, it's growth. It means Wiccan ideals have spread far beyond the boundaries of the original structure. Still, it's understandable why some longtime Wiccans feel like the tradition's getting overshadowed. The internet is filled with trendy forms of witchcraft that sometimes skip over the deeper teachings. The rituals, symbolism, and discipline that define traditional Wicca can seem old school in a world obsessed with quick results. But even that's part of a natural cycle. Every spiritual path goes through periods of expansion and contraction where it gets reinvented to suit the age it's in. It's also worth noting that the world itself has changed. More people now identify as spiritual but not religious. Organized religions in general have seen a decline, not just Wicca. People crave freedom in their spiritual lives. They want to explore, mix, and create their own paths. Wicca, with its open and adaptable nature, paved the way for that freedom. So even if fewer people are calling themselves Wiccan, the influence of Wicca is everywhere, in modern paganism, in New Age spirituality, and even in self-help philosophies that talk about energy, manifestation, and balance. So maybe the real question isn't, is Wicca dying out, but is it transforming? The craft has always been alive, breathing and changing with the people who practice it. If you zoom out, you'll see that the seeds Gerald Gardner planted back in the 1950s have grown into an entire forest of magical traditions. Some trees are old and rooted, others are brand new saplings stretching toward the light. But they all share the same soil, connection to the earth, reverence for the unseen, and a desire to live in harmony with the cycles of nature. Wicca might not look exactly like it used to, but that's okay. Growth doesn't mean disappearance, it means adaptation. Maybe the label will fade, maybe it'll make a comeback, or maybe it'll just quietly live on in the hearts of those who still walk between the worlds. Whatever form it takes, the magic is still there, whispering through the trees, glowing in candlelight, and sparking in the souls of everyone who seeks the sacred in the ordinary. Every path has its bumps in the road, and Wicca is no exception. Even though it's come a long way from the secret gatherings in the 1950s to open festivals and online communities, the modern craft faces some real challenges that can't be ignored. Some of these struggles come from the outside world, while others come from within the community itself. The thing is, Wicca has always been about balance, and that balance is being tested in new ways as our world changes faster than ever. Let's start with one of the biggest issues, the generational divide. The witches who started practicing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s often came into Wicca through covens, formal initiations, and deep mentorship. There was structure and secrecy, and that gave the practice a sense of sacred mystery. But today, younger practitioners are more likely to learn through books, YouTube, or TikTok. They might never set foot in a coven, and for many, that's completely fine. They prefer the freedom to explore on their own terms. However, that freedom sometimes clashes with tradition. The older generation often feels that sacred knowledge is being watered down or taken out of context, while newer witches feel that gatekeeping keeps spirituality stuck in the past. The truth probably lies somewhere again in the middle. There's value in preserving what's old and proven, but there's also beauty in allowing growth and creativity. Wicca has never been static. It's a living faith. The challenge now is learning how to honor the roots while letting new branches grow. If the older generation can mentor with patience and the younger generation can approach the craft with humility, that bridge between past and present can stay strong. Another major challenge comes from outside the community: misconceptions. Even with how much the world has evolved, there's still a surprising amount of fear and misunderstanding about witchcraft. Some folks still associate Wicca with dark magic or devil worship, which couldn't be further from the truth. The media has improved over the years, but there's still that lingering Hollywood image of pointy hats, curses, and bubbling cauldrons. It's almost funny until you realize how damaging those stereotypes can be, especially for younger Wiccans trying to explain their beliefs to family or employers. This is where education and representation matter so much. Every time a Wiccan speaks openly about their faith in a balanced, grounded way, it chips away at old misconceptions. The more people understand that Wicca is about harmony, not harm, the less fear there will be. The craft thrives when it's understood, not sensationalized. Then there's the challenge of commercialization. Walk into any store around Halloween and you'll see the symbols of witchcraft plastered everywhere. Pentacles, brooms, crystals, tarot cards, you name it. On one hand, it's kind of cool that the aesthetic of witchcraft has become mainstream. It shows that society is more open to mystical ideas. But on the other hand, it can feel a little hollow. When spirituality turns into just another fashion trend, the deeper meaning risks getting lost. Some people are drawn to the image of being a witch, but never learn the ethics, philosophy, or reverence that comes with the real practice. Still, we can't forget that this visibility also brings people in. Many of us started with something small, a crystal necklace, a candle spell, or a curiosity about energy, and it led to a lifelong spiritual path. Maybe the commercial side isn't a curse, but a spark, a doorway into something deeper. The key is making sure seekers have access to authentic teachings once they're ready to move beyond the surface. Another subtle challenge is how scattered the Wiccan community can feel. With so many different traditions, solitary paths, and online groups, it's easy to feel disconnected. Back when most learning happened in person, there was a sense of family, a circle you belonged to. Now, community can be found in a comment section or a Zoom ritual. It's a beautiful kind of global connection, but it can also feel impersonal. Keeping that sense of sacred unity alive in a digital world is a constant balancing act. Ultimately, Wicca's challenges aren't signs of weakness, they're signs of growth. Every living tradition goes through periods of transformation, and this is ours. We're learning to navigate modern culture without losing our soul. We're finding ways to blend ancient wisdom with new technology. We're figuring out how to stay true to the craft while welcoming the next generation of witches with open arms. Wicca's never been about perfection, it's about harmony. And like these cycles of nature we honor, the faith itself goes through seasons. Maybe right now we're in a time of change and realignment, but every winter leads to a spring. The roots of Wicca are deep, and as long as we keep nurturing them with honesty, respect, and love for the sacred, it'll keep growing, stronger than ever. You know that feeling when winter's finally ending and you start to notice the first buds popping up through the cold ground? That's kind of what's happening with Wicca right now. After decades of change, debate, and evolution, it's not fading away, it's renewing itself. Like the cycles we celebrate in the craft, Wicca seems to be entering a new season of growth, one that looks different from anything before but carries the same sacred heartbeat at its core. Wicca was never meant to stay frozen in time. From the moment Joe Gardner helped bring it into the public eye, it's been a living, breathing path that shifts along with the people who walk it. In the early days, it was all about reclaiming the lost connection between humanity and nature, something that still resonates today, maybe even more strongly than ever. In a world full of digital noise, pollution, and fast-paced living, people are craving meaning again. They're yearning for something that feels real, and that's where Wicca has an incredible opportunity to shine. The future of the craft isn't about trying to go back to how things used to be. It's about weaving the old with the new. Many modern practitioners are blending ancient rituals with environmental activism, seeing earth care as a sacred study. Some are building inclusive covens that welcome all orientations and backgrounds. Others are bringing magic into modern spaces. Urban witchcraft practiced from tiny apartments, online ritual circles, and eco-friendly altars that use solar candles instead of paraffin ones. The heart of Wicca has always been about adaptability, and that's exactly what's helping it to survive. There's also this quiet but growing movement of mentorship returning to the craft. After years of solitary practice dominating the scene, more experienced witches are stepping forward to guide newcomers. It's not about control or hierarchy, it's about passing the torch with wisdom and respect. This new wave of teaching isn't limited to covens either. It's happening in podcasts, YouTube channels, online courses, and even local meetups where people share stories, trade spells, and build friendships rooted in magical kinship. The way Wiccans connect might have changed, but the sense of community is finding its rhythm again. Another part of Wicca's rebirth is how it's reclaiming its voice in the larger world. Wiccans are speaking out more about environmental preservation, social justice, and equality. The craft has always carried a spiritual awareness of balance and cause and effect, the same energy that drives us to protect the planet, respect others, and act mindfully. As more Wiccans live their beliefs in visible ways, they're showing that the faith isn't about hiding in shadows anymore. It's about living authentically, magically, and compassionately in plain sight. Now, for beginners who might be wondering how to take part in this new era of Wicca, the best advice is simple. Stay curious, stay grounded, and follow your intuition. Learn the basics, the Sabbats, the elements, the god and goddess, but also allow your practice to grow naturally. You don't have to have all the answers right away. Be patient. The craft is a lifelong journey, not a race to mastery. Read, meditate, practice, and most importantly, listen to nature, to your inner self, and the quiet guidance that magic whispers when you're still enough to hear it. For those who've been on this path for decades, the future of Wicca asks something a little different. Patience and openness. It's easy to look at the new wave of practitioners and feel frustrated by how different things seem, but every generation leaves its mark. The next wave of witches might not follow the exact rituals or use the same wording, but they're carrying forward the spirit of the craft, the reverence for life, the respect for balance, and the power of will and intention. If the elders can mentor with kindness and the newcomers can honor the roots, Wicca's future will be bright indeed. At its core, Wicca's always been about connection. Again, between the seen and unseen, between the earth and the divine, between people and the cycles that move through everything. That connection isn't disappearing, it's deepening. It's taking on new forms that fit the world we live in now. Maybe we won't all gather in the same groves or chant under the same moon, but the energy is still flowing through us, uniting us as part of something timeless. So no, Wicca isn't dying, it's being reborn. Like the phoenix that rises from its own ashes, the craft continues to transform, learning from the past while reaching for the future. And whether you've been walking the path for years or you're just taking your first steps, you are part of that evolution. Every candle lit, every circle cast, every heartfelt prayer to the Lord and Lady keeps that flame alive. The magic hasn't faded, it's simply finding new ways to glow. When you really step back and look at it all, the origins, the changes, the challenges, and the rebirth, it becomes clear that Wicca isn't dying. It's simply, again, shifting with the times. Just like these cycles of nature we honor, the craft goes through its own seasons. What started as a quiet rebellion against superstition has grown into a living, evolving path that continues to inspire people around the world. Sure, it may look different today. Some practice in forests, others on TikTok, but that heartbeat of magic, reverence, and the balance still echoes through every spell, ritual, and whispered prayer to the Lord and Lady. Wicca's story has never been about staying the same. It's been about rediscovering the sacred in new ways. Whether you're an old soul who's been walking this path for decades, or someone just now dipping their toes into the world of magic, you're part of its unfolding future. The craft lives on in every act of kindness, every moment spent in awe of nature, and every spark of intention that turns thought into action. So as we move forward, let's carry Wicca's light with us, strong, humble, and open to whatever form it chooses next. After all, true magic never fades. It simply transforms, waiting for those brave enough to keep it alive. Well, that's going to wrap up this episode of Witching and Working. How do you feel about Wicca and other pagan practices? Do you think these practices are dying out or simply transforming? Let us all know in the comments below. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe if you haven't already. And don't forget to ring that little bell to be reminded of the wonderful and exciting future episodes to come. Love you guys and gals. Blessed be.